Kyrgios beats Sabalenka in Battle of the Sexes. Nick Kyrgios beat women's world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka in the Battle of the Sexes on Sunday, in a highly publicized showdown with modified rules that divided tennis fans. Former Wimbledon finalist Kyrgios won 6-3, 6-3 in an exhibition match in Dubai, bearing little resemblance to the era-defining 1973 encounter between Billie Jean King and Bobby Riggs. Back then, there was more at stake with the nascent women's professional tour, set up by King, fighting for its legitimacy and prize money for female players still far lower than for the men. King, one of the all-time greats of the women's game who was at the peak of her powers, saw off the 55-year-old Riggs, a top player in his day, 6-4, 6-3, 6-3 in Houston. On Sunday, each player received only one serve, and the dimensions of Sabalenka's side of the court were 9% smaller, in an attempt to restrict Kyrgios' power and speed advantage. Critics questioned the motive behind the event, organized by the agency that manages the careers of both players, beyond the broadcast ratings and money generated. The suitability of Kyrgios, who admitted assaulting an ex-girlfriend in 2021 and has had to distance himself from misogynistic remarks in the past, for the men's role in the act also stirred debate. Kyrgios, the 2022 Wimbledon runner-up, has dropped to 671 in the rankings after playing just 6 tour-level matches over the past 3 seasons, but the 30-year-old Australian still had enough to see off 4-time Grand Slam singles champion Sabalenka. Honestly, it was a really tough match. "She is a hell of a player and such a great champion," said Kyrgios. "She broke my serve numerous times and I had to strap in. Honestly, I would love to play her again and showcase her talent and what I have left in the tank." Ultimately, it was a really hard-fought battle. Kyrgios admitted he dealt with nerves as Sabalenka strode into the arena to Eye of the Tiger in a sparkling jacket. "Of course I was nervous. Not many people would have put their hand up to be in this position," said Kyrgios. Sabalenka was up for the challenge, and the scoreline was close. Sabalenka, who retained her US Open title in September after losing in both the Australian and French Open finals this year, said she was keen for a rematch with Kyrgios. "I think I put up a great fight. He was struggling, he got really tired," said Sabalenka. "I made a lot of great shots, moved a lot to the net, drop shots. Really enjoyed the show. Next time when I play him, I already know the tactics, his strengths and weaknesses, and it will be a better match for sure. I love to challenge myself and I'd love to play again." The stadium lights hummed like a living thing, a low electric breath spreading across the night. It wasn't a Grand Slam final, nor an Olympic showdown, yet the atmosphere felt just as charged. The banner stretched across the court read, "Battle of the Sexes." Beneath it, 2 names glowed on the scoreboard, Nick Kyrgios and Aryna Sabalenka, symbols not just of talent, but of contrast. This was not simply a tennis match. It was a conversation, an argument, a performance, and a question asked with every swing of the racket. Nick Kyrgios walked onto the court first, headphones around his neck, expression half serious, half smiling, as if daring the crowd to decide which version of him would show up tonight. He thrived on chaos, on noise, on the unpredictable rhythm of big moments. Tennis, for him, was never quiet. Then came Aryna Sabalenka. She stepped out with focused calm, shoulders squared, eyes forward. Where Kyrgios brought flair, Sabalenka brought force. Her game was built on power and resilience, forged through years of silencing doubt. The crowd roared louder now, not because she was the underdog, but because she carried something heavier than expectation. She carried representation. The warm-up told its own story. Kyrgios fired serves that cracked like thunder, the ball skidding low and fast. Sabalenka answered with ground strokes that echoed like cannon fire, her returns biting the baseline with intent. They weren't playing against each other yet, they were measuring, testing, learning. When the umpire called play, the match began like a spark meeting dry air. Kyrgios served first, opening with an ace down the tee, grinning as the crowd erupted. He followed it with a cheeky underarm serve that Sabalenka chased down, returning with interest, hard, deep, unapologetic. No smiles from her. Not yet. The rallies grew longer than many expected. Sabalenka refused to be rushed, absorbing Kyrgios's pace and redirecting it with brutal efficiency. She broke his serve early, her fist clenched, her shout sharp and clear. It wasn't anger, it was presence. The first set became a tug-of-war between styles. Kyrgios mixed slices, drop shots, and sudden net rushes, turning the court into a puzzle. Sabalenka responded with raw power and relentless depth, refusing to let him turn the match into a circus. Every point felt like a debate: creativity versus consistency, instinct versus discipline. Sabalenka took the first set 7-5. The crowd buzzed with surprise. Kyrgios sat on his chair, towel over his head, nodding slowly, not frustrated but challenged. For once, he wasn't the center of attention. And that, perhaps, was exactly what woke him up. The second set began differently. Kyrgios sharpened his focus, his serve more precise, his footwork cleaner. The jokes faded, the competitor stepped forward. He held serve with authority, then broke Sabalenka with a perfectly timed return winner that clipped the line. Sabalenka didn't falter. She adjusted, stepping inside the baseline, taking the ball earlier, daring Kyrgios to hit through her. The rallies turned fierce, the ball moving so fast it blurred under the lights. This was no exhibition anymore. This was belief. At 6-6, the set went to a tiebreak. The stadium fell into a tense hush, broken only by the squeak of shoes and the thud of the ball. Kyrgios struck first, an ace. Sabalenka answered with the return winner. Back and forth they went, neither yielding ground, neither blinking. At set point, Kyrgios unleashed a serve so fast it felt inevitable. Sabalenka's return floated just long. One set all. The deciding set carried a different weight. Fatigue crept in, not just physical but mental. Every mistake felt louder, every winner more dramatic. The crowd leaned forward, invested now not in the spectacle, but in the outcome. Sabalenka broke first, her roar echoing into the night. Kyrgios responded immediately, breaking back with a miraculous passing shot that drew gasps. They were no longer symbols. They were simply athletes, locked in the oldest fight sport knows. Who wants it more? Games passed. Sweat darkened shirts. Legs slowed. But the intensity never dipped. At 5-5, Kyrgios held serve with courage, saving 2 break points with fearless second serves. Sabalenka answered, holding hers with sheer will, pounding the ball until Kyrgios finally netted a return. Again a tiebreak. This time, Kyrgios played like someone who understood the moment. He trusted his instincts, but he respected the opponent across the net. He didn't rush. He didn't showboat. He competed. At match point, the rally stretched, forehand to forehand, power against precision, neither backing down. Sabalenka fired one last shot down the line, but it sailed inches wide. The scoreboard changed. Kyrgios raised his arms. The crowd stood. Nick Kyrgios had won. But the applause didn't belong to him alone.